Someone in your life is not who they say they are. You sense it. That quiet unease when they speak, that flicker of something wrong behind their smile. You feel it but can't name it. While you are being honest, someone else is performing. While you are trusting, someone else is calculating. The room looks the same to both of you, but you are not playing the same game. Manipulation rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive with a villain's voice or a menacing look. It arrives wearing warmth. It arrives wearing generosity. It arrives as the person you trust the most. Most people live their entire lives never realizing they are being moved. Not by fate. Not by chance. By someone who understood human psychology far better than they were ever willing to admit. The question isn't whether you've been manipulated. You have. The question is whether you will keep walking blind, or whether you will finally learn to see the architecture of influence around you. There is a man who mapped this architecture 5 centuries ago. He was hated for it, feared for it, called immoral by people who simply couldn't accept the truth he refused to hide. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli. And what he wrote, not as advice but as a warning, remains the most accurate map of human power ever committed to paper. Most people never read it. You are about to read it now. Not the sanitized version. The real one. And by the end, you will never look at the people around you the same way again. Stay with me. Florence, 1513. Machiavelli had just been tortured on the Strapato, his arms ripped from their sockets, by men who suspected he was plotting against them. He wasn't. But they needed someone to fear. Released and exiled, stripped of everything, Machiavelli did not weep. He wrote. He wrote about the one thing that had destroyed him, and that ruled everything. Power. And the psychology of those who hold it. The result was The Prince. A book so honest about human behavior that the church banned it. Rulers kept secret copies under their beds. And ordinary men were never meant to read it at all. Machiavelli wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. Most people are neither." What Machiavelli understood, that Jung would later confirm in the concept of the shadow, is that every human being contains a hidden self. A calculating self. Most hide it. A few master it. Nietzsche called it the will to power. Not the desire to dominate others, but the drive to master oneself and one's environment. Those who understand this never play the victim. They study the board. You are not watching a game. You are already in one. The only variable is whether you understand the rules being used against you. That awareness is not paranoia. That awareness is survival intelligence. In the next 16 minutes, you will hear 8 truths that will forever change how you perceive the people in your inner circle. Drop this in the comments. I see through the mask. Tactic 1. The mask of warmth. The most dangerous manipulator you will ever meet will not feel dangerous. They will feel like relief. Like finally finding someone who truly understands you. That feeling is the trap. They ask the right questions. They remember details about your life no one else bothers to track. They make you feel seen. And that feeling of being seen creates a debt you never consciously agreed to. Machiavelli warned that men are won over more by kindness than by force. He didn't mean that as praise. He meant it as a tactic. Warmth, deployed strategically, disarms every rational defense you have. They find your wound early. Everyone has one: rejection, abandonment, invisibility. The skilled manipulator locates that wound within the first few conversations. Not to heal it, to press it slowly when needed. Jung called this the persona, the face we show the world. But a skilled manipulator builds a persona specifically calibrated to your psychology. It's not accidental charm. It's a custom-built mirror showing you yourself. The defense is not coldness. It is pace. Not everyone who is warm is a manipulator, but genuine warmth is consistent. It doesn't intensify when they need something. Real affection doesn't have a transaction attached. Watch not what they say when they want something. Watch who they are when they have nothing to gain. That unguarded moment, that is where the real face finally shows itself to you. Tactic 2. Manufactured obligation. They give first. A favor, a compliment, a sacrifice, offered without being asked. And in that moment, without a single word spoken, a debt is written in invisible ink. Machiavelli understood that men are bound more by benefits received than by any contract. Social reciprocity is not a courtesy. In the hands of a manipulator, it is a chain they choose when to pull. They helped you move apartments. They covered for you at work. They remembered your birthday when no one else did. Each act builds a ledger. And one day the bill arrives. You never saw it coming. The ask, when it finally comes, will feel reasonable. Almost small compared to what they've given. And that's the design. They have ensured the weight of your debt makes refusal feel like moral failure. Watch for the scorekeeping. The person who casually lists everything they've done for you is not reminding you out of love. They are auditing the debt. They are telling you it is time to pay. True generosity expects nothing. It doesn't remind you. It doesn't arrive right before a favor is needed. It doesn't withdraw when refused. Those three distinctions separate a genuine ally from a quiet architect of leverage. Your freedom begins the moment you recognize that accepting a favor is not the same as agreeing to a contract. You can receive kindness without handing over your autonomy in return. That distinction is everything. Tactic 3. Controlled information. What they tell you and what they withhold is not random. Every word they share was chosen. Every silence was calculated. You are never receiving the full picture. Only what they want you to see. Machiavelli wrote that a wise prince never reveals all his intentions. He understood something fundamental. Whoever controls the flow of information controls the decisions of others. Power is not about what you know. It's about what others don't. In your own life, this happens constantly. The colleague who shares just enough information to keep you engaged but never enough to let you act independently. The partner who answers every question with another question. Information is their currency. This is not always malicious. Some people hoard information out of insecurity. But intentional information control has a signature. It always benefits the person who holds it. Follow the advantage to find the architect. Notice who only shares news about others' weaknesses. Who tells you just enough to destabilize your trust in someone else. Who positions themselves as your only reliable source. That position was constructed, not discovered. Information asymmetry is the original power move. The person who knows more than you always holds the advantage. The counter isn't aggression, it's curiosity. Ask more questions than they expect. Watch what they refuse to answer. Drop in the comments. Information is currency. I control mine. And remember this, the most revealing moment in any relationship is not what someone says to you. It is what they deliberately choose not to say. Tactic 4. Emotional destabilization. An unstable man cannot think clearly. A man who cannot think clearly cannot act decisively. And a man who cannot act decisively is controlled without ever realizing it. This is the oldest weapon. They shift the emotional climate without warning. Warm one moment, distant the next. They make you responsible for their mood. And in chasing their approval back, you hand them the wheel to your emotional state entirely. Machiavelli understood that a prince who creates uncertainty in his court controls that court. Certainty breeds independence. Uncertainty breeds dependence. When you never know where you stand with someone, you are always seeking to stabilize. That seeking is leverage. This manifests as the hot and cold dynamic. Sudden criticism after extended praise. Withdrawing affection without explanation. Rewriting history so that you begin to doubt your own memory of events. Each of these is a technique, not a personality quirk. Jung warned about the emotional manipulation he called projection, where another person plants their guilt, shame, or inadequacy inside you so cleanly that you begin to carry it as your own. You feel guilty. They feel nothing. The emotional anchor you seek inside yourself cannot be borrowed from someone else's approval. Stoicism, not coldness, is the shield. You can feel everything and still not let someone else's emotional climate become your weather system. Emotional mastery is not the absence of feeling. It is the refusal to be governed by someone else's manufactured emotional climate. Calm is a weapon. Stability is power. Your stillness is the thing they cannot control. Most people stop here. Keep going. Asterisk asterisk. Tactic 5. Social proof engineering. They don't just manipulate you. They manipulate how everyone around you perceives you. Because the person who controls your reputation controls your options, your alliances, and ultimately your freedom of movement. They move through your social environment planting seeds. A carefully worded concern about your reliability. A just between us observation about your character. Nothing accusatory. Nothing that can be directly confronted. Just subtle, steady erosion of how others see you. Machiavelli wrote that men are quick to believe what they want to believe about others. The social manipulator exploits this perfectly. They don't need to lie about you. They only need to frame the truth in the most damaging possible way. You felt this? A room that changed before you could identify why. Allies who went quiet. Doors that once opened suddenly requiring more effort. The social architecture was quietly restructured. And you didn't see the hands that moved the walls. The counter is not a direct accusation. That gives them exactly the conflict they want, where they look calm and you look reactive. Your power is in building direct relationships that bypass their narrative entirely. Proximity defeats proxy. Go directly to the people they've influenced. Not defensively, authentically. Let your actions rewrite the story they told. Reputation built through consistent behavior cannot be destroyed by words. Let time and conduct be your evidence, not your arguments. A man who is known by his character is nearly impossible to isolate. Build depth of relationship before you ever need it. The manipulator only wins in shallow social environments. Depth makes you immune. Go deep. Tactic 6. The guilt architecture. Guilt is the most efficient leash ever invented. Not because it is honest, but because it requires no enforcement. A man who carries guilt polices himself. They never even have to ask twice. They remind you of your past mistakes, not to forgive them but to keep them accessible. A well-placed, "I thought you'd changed," at the right moment collapses months of confidence in under 4 seconds. Watch for the timing. Guilt manipulation uses your values against you. Because you care about being a good person, about keeping commitments, about not causing harm, they weaponize that care. Your ethics become the mechanism of your own compliance. That is the elegance of it. Machiavelli made a distinction between deserved criticism and weaponized criticism. The first comes with specificity and a path forward. The second arrives at strategic moments and offers no resolution. Only pressure. One is feedback. The other is control. Guilt that serves growth has an expiration date. It arrives, informs you, and leaves. Guilt that is used against you is kept alive on purpose. It is fed and maintained. Ask, who benefits from your continued shame? That answer is your map. Accountability to yourself requires honest self-reflection. Accountability to a manipulator requires only ongoing submission. You can take responsibility for what you've done without accepting a life sentence for it. There is a profound difference. Learn to feel the gap. Drop in the comments, "My past doesn't own me, I do." The man who masters his guilt masters his psychology. No one can use what you've already processed and released. Resolution is armor. Put it on. Tactic 7. The long patience play. Not all manipulation is immediate. The most sophisticated operators are willing to wait years. They are playing a timeline you cannot see because you are focused on the present. They are not. Machiavelli wrote that time carries all things with it and can bring good as well as evil. He understood that the patient man who bides his time holds an asymmetric advantage over the man who acts on immediate impulse. In your relationships and professional life, this looks like someone who takes a lower position than they are capable of strategically. They observe. They build goodwill. They accumulate social capital. And when their moment comes, they move without warning. They are in no rush to impress you now. They are investing in access, in memory, in being the person who is always there and always reliable, so that when they need something, the answer is already yes before the question is asked. The defense is not suspicion of everyone who is patient. Patience is also a virtue. The distinction is intention. Patient people build. Patient manipulators wait to collect. One is generative. The other is extractive. Examine the direction of energy flow. Your counter is your own long game. Machiavelli was not teaching you to become suspicious. He was teaching you to extend your own timeline. Think in decades, not days. The man with the longest horizon always holds the most power. Build your own vision that is larger than any single relationship. When your purpose exceeds any individual's ability to derail it, patience becomes your natural state. No one can use time against a man who has already decided where he's going. Tactic 8. Reframing reality. This is the most advanced tactic on this list, because it doesn't change what happened. It changes what events mean. And a man who controls meaning controls the story. And the story controls everything. You confronted them about a lie. They reframe it as your misunderstanding. You raised a concern about their behavior. They reframe it as your insecurity. Every conflict becomes evidence of your flaw rather than their action. The story is never about them. Machiavelli wrote that men are so simple that whoever wishes to deceive will always find those who will let themselves be deceived. The reframing tactic works because we want coherent narratives. We accept the frame to end the cognitive discomfort. Jung called this the process of being caught in someone else's myth, living inside a story they authored about who you are and what your behavior means. The only exit is authoring your own story with absolute clarity and consistency. The practice is documentation, not paranoia, clarity. When you record your experiences at the time they happen, you create a fixed record against revisionism. Your own witnessed truth becomes an anchor no one else can lift from the riverbed. The man who knows himself cannot be rewritten by someone else's narrative. Not because he is rigid, but because he is rooted. When you know exactly who you are and why you act, reframing attempts slide off like water on stone. You have now seen all 8. The mask of warmth, manufactured obligation, controlled information, emotional destabilization, social proof engineering, the guilt architecture, the long patience play, and the reframing of reality. These are the tools. Now use the knowledge. Return to the window. That person you sensed. That unease you couldn't name. You can name it now. You can see the structure beneath the surface. That is not cynicism. That is clarity. And clarity is freedom. Machiavelli did not write The Prince to create more manipulators. He wrote it so that the lion would finally understand the traps set by foxes. He wanted you to see the board clearly. You now do. To be a fox is not weakness. To be a lion is not cruelty. Wisdom is knowing which nature the moment demands, and having mastered both well enough to move between them without losing yourself in either. The man who has mastered these 8 recognitions does not become paranoid. He becomes precise. He does not treat everyone as an enemy. He simply stops treating every smiling face as proof of safety. He distinguishes. That is everything. Jung, Nietzsche, Machiavelli, Marcus Aurelius. They each said the same thing in different languages. Know yourself so completely that nothing outside you can define you, break you, or move you without your full and conscious consent. That is the unified philosophy of this channel. Not to make you hard. To make you clear. Not to make you cold. To make you conscious. The man who sees the world accurately does not fear it. He navigates it. This video gave you something. Hit like. Share it with one man who needs to hear it. Subscribe and ring the notification bell. Every video on this channel is built to make you see further and stand firmer. You were never unarmed. You were simply unaware. Awareness is the only weapon that, once drawn, can never be taken from you.